Okay, it's running.
Okay, then we can actually start. Let me introduce you. I'm very, very happy to have here Ludo and Thomas. We were just discussing with Clemens if we wanted to provide a keynote, and we said, okay, we have to find some interesting topics. And then it came in mind that in very few time, two people that are very known in the community, one from the inside, one from the outside, joined the PM. Then I said, why don't ask them to tell us everything about life, the universe, and everything about the life of Oracle PM. What is it about? Why should I care? Why should I know it? What can they do for me? And therefore, I will hand over to them, hoping that the answer will not be only 42, but a little bit more. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Clemens. Okay, so first I would like to start saying that we are not the only two PMs in Switzerland, and there are many. We tried to do a head count, and it's still not easy. What we can say is that we are the two last additions to the product management from Switzerland. Okay, there are the Oracle Labs in Zurich. There we have a lot of people there, and actually it's much bigger than what I was thinking before knowing about Oracle Labs in Zurich. But first I would like to, well, we didn't do much preparation for this. We just put a few slides together and say we'll just talk about our job. But first I would like to say where we come from and what was our career path to become Oracle product managers. Thomas, would you like to start with yours?
Yeah, I can start. As many know, I am one of those guys who's been a long distance runner when I was young. And that's the same for my career at Oracle. I started on April 1st, some 24 years ago. And it was never a specific goal getting into the PM team. I've been working lots of times with the PM team and saw it always from one side of the fence, let's say. And as usual, if you are in a garden and hit the rim, you want to know what's on the other side. And it came more or less automatically when a position was free. The day was asked. This is very much the kind of style I learned here. Oracle is really a relatively big community. Some people might not think this is possible at this scale, but it is. And the PM team and the people who are in there, they are widely spread. And so I knew a few people locally as well as in headquarters, in former headquarters, I need to say these days. And I was just checking whether it's possible. And when I was asking, they said, yeah, of course. And you won't believe it. If you have something in your backpack, it can work. This is what I want to share with you. Anyone who's got the real ambition to get there could make it if that's a target. The interesting thing is the job is not an ordinary office job, and we will get into some of these details. This is not just about time zones. And with that, I hand over back to Ludo so that we explain on where are the other guys? Why are we talking about time zones here?
Yes, we discuss about it as well. Yeah, from my side, it has been a steer in my career, quite late steer in my career. I've been a DBA and technical guy for my whole life. And I think that the big change came when I came in Switzerland and I joined Trivaris at that time. And I had the chance to start developing more my community presence as a blogger, as a speaker, and had the chance to meet product managers at conferences and talk about technology there. And this is where I met most of the people in my current team, and especially Markus Vikalewicz, who is the guy that invited me a couple of years ago to join the team at the headquarters, but for personal problems, I could not do that. And finally, now with this pandemic situation, it's a very bad thing, but on the other side, it helped me to have this position remotely. And this is how I became a PM. And we'll see also that there are many kinds of PMs that can be more or less technical depending on the product and depending on their background. They have just one point in common, that is helping the customer using the product at its best, and of course making the products better so that customer can get the most out of them. So there are several locations. Of course, we all know the former headquarters, because now Oracle is officially a Texan company based in Texas, but you all know Redwood and Nashua, of course. And there are many other development and technology centers where we have developers working for us. This is just, I would say, the main ones, but there are just a few. We have developers literally everywhere.
So daily experience for me is out of these 7 spots you see here, I have 5 each and every day by email or in Zoom. And that's also interesting for the how to get here, onboarding and everything else. Hey, it was all by Zoom. Yeah. So the distance between me and my manager is 9,000 kilometers, and this will not change. The interesting thing is, these are the centers, the kind of people we work with, and the people we deal with in our roles, they are virtually everywhere. For that reason, it's important to know how it works out down there at level 0. You don't need to be on the 10th floor of an office building to understand how our customers and our community works. You need to start at the ground floor, and we will get into this onto the next slides.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I was really interested to know is about Oracle organization. So we have all seen those jokes with Oracle that is 90% legal stuff and 10% technical stuff. This is not the case. But just to give you an idea, there are two big organizations, the one that is under Larry Ellison and the one that is under Safra Catz. And under Larry Ellison, you have everything that is related to the technology. So there you have everything that is database development, the server technology, the cloud, analytics and application, but intended as a product, and of course also the corporate architecture. And under Safra Catz, you have the countries, you have the consulting, you have sales, you have the marketing. So everything that is more oriented toward customers, working with customers, finding customers, helping customers. And of course, also in the Larry Ellison organization, we do care about customers, but more from a product point of view. Okay. And me and Thomas, we're all in the server and technology branch that is led by Juan Leiser. And yeah, those are what you can see in the slide, are basically all the technologies that we care, or at least that there are managers that take care of those technologies. Personally, me and Thomas are touched more by the ones that we highlighted in red. And me personally is in the MAA, so the Maximum Availability Architecture group. This is where we have all the core technology features that enable high availability in Oracle. So we have like Data Guard, we have Flashback itself, Arman, Golden Gate, and products like that.
And you can see already, I have 3 of these with the Exadata Cloud at Customer, and Exadata Cloud. That's what we use when we say Exadata-based cloud services. As you can imagine, there is many links between them. Yeah? So there is no Exadata without the database. There is no Exa without MAA. There is no reason having MAA beefed up without having totally different deployment choices. So there's many things that develop and are very tightly bounded. And that is one of the things you need to understand. Although it's 1,800 people, it doesn't mean that there is 100 people in each of these offices just waiting for work that needs to be done and have lots of idle cycles. It's the other way around. It's only 1,800 people.
Yeah.
It's a very well-oiled gear in server tech for the simple reason that the processes it takes to maintain and to run the business, they are really very well established. From the outside, you don't see that, of course. You see products, but what it takes to bring a product to a market and so forth, that takes a few roles. And we get back to this item on the next pages. Don't be scared, we have only very few slides.
Yeah, it's just a few. Yeah. So I took this slide from Ricardo Gonzalez, and I have to give him credit for that. Ricardo is one of the product managers that work in my team, and it helped me before joining this role to understand what it's really about being a product manager, because what I was used to see from the outside, product manager is the guy that go at conferences, that explain the product, that take messages from tweet and solve the problem with people that interact with the product manager, but actually it's much more than that. And so to try to recap, product manager is working from really close with the development to really close to the customer and interact with all the steps in development and in the release of products, from the architectural concept to customer support, and not necessarily having any real big responsibility, in the sense that, for example, product manager do not plan the architectures. There are architects for that. There are developers that develop the code. And there is the support that gives the support to the customer. So the product manager is really focused on the product and try to synchronize with the different teams for everything in regards of a specific product. Do you want to explain that one, Thomas? Or
yeah, let me explain a bit more. When I was pitching to my current team in the hiring phase, I said, Oracle is one big learning organization, and the trick of any organization to sustain is to learn quicker than anyone else and to implement whatever has been learned. And this is really the eternal cycle, which is provided by input and feedback. And if you look at it, you could say the three classes of PMs, they are just some of those that we see here in the product management team. So you out there working with Oracle or being a consultant, you might see lots of the so-called outbound product managers whose role it is to interact with the outside world from Oracle's perspective. So all of our customers, partners, and everyone out there in the street. So people need to know what it is. They need to know why we have this stuff. The inbound product managers, they also work with the customers, but they don't work with the rest of the world, let's say. They focus on those who have made the choice for Oracle already. The interesting thing is, there's a fine line between those, and this is moving all the time. The inbound and outbound product managers are in direct touch all the time for the simple reason. Outbound product managers, for example, they gather input from market players or from those who are active elsewhere and provide that as input to the inbound product managers. Inbound product managers gather that again and interact with the core product managers who are responsible for the development of whatever we want to sell. So you see, this is always a kind of sandwich, and there's a few layers. If you think of these being here 3 layers, there is the people at customers and people at partners. They are interacting with different product managers, and therefore there's also different levels of support you can expect. To give you an idea, in my role, I'm an outbound product manager. I know lots of stuff which allows me to talk to a core product manager and work with them. But my main role is to make sure that our inbound product managers know what we want and what we consider being responsibly done by Oracle to serve the market well. On the other hand, if the inbound product managers have been fighting to obtain development budget and have been implementing something, it's up to us in the outbound management to make sure it can be sold. So having a commercial model, explaining that to everyone, and understanding that this can be actually sold and is not just for something who is living on the dark side of the moon. The interesting thing is, many people believe probably that these input and feedback cycles are complicated. The opposite is true. When I joined the team, and even a bit before that, I could sense that one of the key criteria to be in this kind of inner family of the teams here at Oracle is you need to be very collaborative. You need to be willing to share. And if you're not, you're very, very easily at the rim of a small island, and there is only an ocean of work outside. So if you want to stay happy on this island of work that we have inside the company, there's only one way to get it done, and that is you have to have an ego. But as we all know, there is no I in team. So everyone is on the same level in these discussions. And I've experienced that to people who are, even from my point of view, 2 or 3 levels above. And there's not a 4th level beyond that, yeah, from my perspective, which means like everyone is approachable and everyone is happy to share what he's got. And I think, Ludo, that's one of the experiences you made also when you've been joining from the outside world, from being a customer and partner into Oracle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you just start looking, well, we have an internal directory, and basically at the beginning, every name that came from emails or messages, whatever, I started looking at the directory to see how am I connected with this person. And sometimes, you know, those are persons that are relatively close to my organization. But sometimes there are people, I don't know, the cloud architect on the other side of the globe that is attached to a completely different organization that pinged me directly because I've shared something in our intranet, or because I've prepared some collaterals, or because I'm product manager of specific products. And they ask for information, for example, and I think that is key to survive, to give as much information as possible, because there are so many customers out there, there are so many sales consultants and technical consultants that it wouldn't be possible to answer to all the different questions that we get. And the more we spread, the more we prepare documents, the more we prepare articles, the more we train the sales, for example, the more we train the consultants, and the more they will be autonomous, sorry for the buzzword, they will be autonomous in helping the customer without any additional input from the product management. And what is incredible for me is that all the guys, all the brains that architect the software, that lead the development, that decide the strategic decisions for the future of the product are completely unknown in the outside world. And what you see outside is the product managers, but we are just passing information. Of course, we are doing tests, we are doing meetings, we are helping with solutions, but mostly we are synchronizing and passing information to the different stakeholders.
Let me explain that with a specific example. As you know, my new love is Exadata Cloud at Customer, which is somehow the marriage between a database running as a cloud database service on a box that we call the Exadata, which is in itself an engineering feat. And then this is all attached to Oracle Cloud while it's running in a data center of a customer's choice. So there is three big areas. And whenever you start an undertaking like this, you start with the outside world. Is there a real need? And guess what happened? We came up with this solution a few years ago, And almost immediately, some of the customers were talking to everyone they knew and said, looks great, but you've got a gap. And as usual, the gap was not a perceived one, but a real world gap. Yeah? It was about control. And as you all know, cloud is one of those topics where everyone wants to understand. Is it about economics? Is it about operations model? Is it about how much control we can take? And one of these topics was to say, what if in this specific solution, Oracle decides to work on the machine, and we want to be able to have full control on when Oracle is doing it, and want to kill the cat if it's running in our offices, but it shouldn't, so that your preventative controls can observe it, can intercept, can analyze, can audit, all of these kind of things. All these were, let's say, bits and pieces that were initially collected from various customers. And that was then formalized into something which led to the definition of a new capability in the product. And guess what? It was just last night that we announced it with the operator access control. And it's, to me, the perfect example where customers expressed what they need. Some people in the account teams and product management teams were gathering it. They made up sense of the various individual requirements to package it up into something that can be actually produced in software and processes. And then this has been given to the board of people who provide budget for development project. And guess what? It was positively responded, so development teams started. And now you might think, oh, people started creating new hardware, new software, but that's not all. In this case, it was mainly software and processes. Why that? Because Oracle is becoming a service company. So they needed to have software, but also people who have specific roles in the company, business processes that are as robust as the machinery. And you need to have all this in order to provide new services or new additions to services. And this is only possible because we can collect and assimilate what we have with the needs of customers. And the interesting thing is, this is the kind of impression which I had for almost 3 decades now that I work with Oracle as a customer or as an insider in Oracle. If you have input, there's always someone to listen. And that's the background of this slide. If you advance this slide to the next one, you will see we come with much less text. Yeah? And the interesting thing is, we share experience and you share experience with us. And this is driving Oracle, and therefore you as a customer or nerd or consultant, if you don't keep sharing, you become less relevant. And that's the same for us in the PM team. The more we can share about what we've learned, what we think is the next step, the better for everyone. And this is really interesting. You might think a database or an infrastructure or a service is finished. No, that's not true. It's an eternal cycle. And therefore, these feedback loops, they are extremely important. Maybe you can explain that, Ludovico, on the examples of the kind of presentations which hit everyone in the database team a few weeks ago when you've been explaining MAA updates for DataGuard. Yeah, it was quite a big feat, right?
I don't know. Can you say it again?
I mean, when you were updating the first presentations under your name, which are available to everyone here in the database PM team, as well as to everyone out there in the customers team.
You mean the cloud MAA deck?
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a significant thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That was my biggest major effort that I've done so far, and it's a big slide deck where basically, from a quite technical point of view, we try to give an idea of all the high availability solutions that we have in the cloud, what are automated completely by the cloud automation tooling, and what had to be achieved manually. And So it was a lot of contact with Sebastian Solbach. There is a person in my team that is basically, he knows everything about cloud automation and database. So whatever is in the control plane for that, Sebastian knows that. So it just made a big dump of information to me, and I tried to put together all of the information, and then went through different cycles of feedback with the different MAA architects and cloud architects, and the final result is something that you can find in the cloud MAA landing page on the Oracle website. That was not to give you to do a sales pitch for my personal achievement. It was quite interesting, and got tons of feedback, and even today I was answering to many questions that come from the field. I mean, the field is our cloud architects, our sales consultants, that need to know better how we position specific products and what can be achieved, and what is the general direction that comes from the headquarters, because finally this is where we are also in between the development, the management, and the people in the field. We have to translate what the developers produce, what are the specifications, and make them usable by the people that are in closer contact with the customers.
And let me go back to the very first slide, namely why time zones. You know, there is many people we have that are in different places. Developers, for example, many of them are either in the US or India or in Europe. But interesting thing is gathering all the inputs for the improvements or for the changes and do active probing requires to be in touch with the people who are out there. Different markets have different requirements, for example, different regulatory compliance or different commercial requirements. And the interesting thing is, I'm now in a lucky position that all the experience that I could gain myself helps me to talk with people on any of those levels. So these might be pure business people, they might be analysts, they might be developers, they might be some of our managers, and they might raise a question, and they of course expect an answer typically very quickly, like you know that from your own companies. But the interesting thing is, all these inputs, they are seriously taken. It's not that there is a big waste bucket where we throw all the bad ideas into. All of these kind of things are valued in this true sense, and they are taken to be potential input for the next big thing. And from what I've seen is there's a few good ideas that are always driving us. And you might think it sounds boring, like better price performance or being faster or being more clever or having the 1250 SPL SQL package in the database. The interesting thing is this is all driven by people like you and me, everyone in the audience, who's observed something and is either willing to share or is demanding it, because this is a world of economics. So in the end, money makes it moving forward. And the question is whether all of our customers shall do it or Oracle shall do it. And in my role, I am clearly on the side of Oracle shall do it, because none of our customers should do what we do. If I see the efforts that my colleagues undergo to bring a new version of hardware into the market, it's unbelievable. You know? I mean, if you ever tried to build your own car and try to service your car that you bought from an ordinary dealership, you get a sense of it. If you do that for something like a software product, it's even far more complex. And the simple reason for that complexity lies in the enormous variety of skills that it takes. And that's the biggest thing I've taken. There's not just people everywhere, but they have skills that you haven't seen before. And if you talk to these people, you're just impressed by that. And with that, I think we should close. I think, Ludo, you have a few other thoughts as well
Yeah, I didn't have time to talk about a lot of things, but yeah, one thing that changed a lot is definitely our working hours. So for example, on Monday, I start directly in the afternoon because I have meetings until 11 p.m. This evening, I will have meetings until 11 p.m. Sometimes we have to work with Australia, and if they need also people working in West Coast, then it's a hard night for us in Europe. So it's funny. And I understood that Australia has 7 different time zones. Australia is split in 3 parts vertically and 2 parts horizontally. And there is also a tiny square that is completely different from the others. I encourage you, if you want to learn something about time zones and how they might be complex, to look at how Australia is organized for time zones and where they change when they change the hours for sunlight saving, etc. It's really interesting, and it blew up my mind when I had to have my first meeting with the Australian guys.
When you're talking about time, this is the timekeeper. Just wanted to give you a friendly reminder that you've passed the 30-minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But I think it's over. So
I think there's a final thing everyone should know here. We are easily approachable, not just internally, but also externally. Just ping us whenever you feel the need for it. Yeah. The reason why we are Ludo and myself here is not just because someone in corporate thinks that we are the best and brightest. There's also us being in a specific location, understanding how people run the business, know how people work, and being close. And that's important for us. We want to be as close as we can to you. Yeah. We cannot just come to your desk every day, but virtually we are much, much closer than the colleagues from the US or from India or from elsewhere. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Oracle is almost anywhere and close to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Maybe
you, Thomas. Thank you, Clarence.
Maybe if there are some questions from the audience, you can type it in the question and answer, or you can just raise your hand and you will be given a mic, a virtual mic. So I do not see anybody who's raising.
While there's no Q&A, I can tell you the kind of questions that I received in the first 2 weeks when I was joining. So the number one question was, do you have jobs? The second question was, can you share the roadmap with me? And the third, believe it or not, I have a problem with something else. Who can help me? The first one has vanished, and the 2 other questions, they remain stable. So don't be shy.
Okay, then as there are no questions from the audience, I would say we thank you very much. It was very interesting. And if you need something, just drop an email or a tweet or a LinkedIn message. And I think that Ludo and Thomas are ready to help you. And then I would say we can go to
coffee break.
15 minutes break, or better to say 14:15 we start again, this time with Stefan Early about Oracle database.